Hey y'all, so today I'm gonna start talking to y'all about gesture drawings. Gesture drawings, the purpose that we do a gesture drawing is to plot out the information of a drawing. The things we see are 3D. Gestures break those 3D objects into shapes. I have this example photo that I just took earlier before I started this video, and this is what I'm gonna be drawing. I'm gonna focus on the apple, the mug, the spoon, the scissors, and the Tabasco bottle. Just so y'all see, this is the picture right here, but I'm gonna go ahead and move it so I can have a better view of it while I draw. Okay, so what you're gonna need for gesture drawings is your paper, of course. Every drawing requires paper, and you're gonna need a pencil. You can use your number 2 pencil, I'll accept that, that's perfectly fine. Or you can use a drawing pencil, and in this case, I'm gonna use my 4B drawing pencil, just because it gives some nice, rich values. Alright, so I mentioned earlier that we're breaking the objects, these 3D objects, into shapes. So gesture drawings are not super accurate. Just think of it as the skeleton of your drawing. So let me go ahead and start with my apple. If you notice, I'm just drawing a circle. I'm gonna give it a stem, and you'll notice that I'm not really picking up my pencil. We're leaving out a lot of that detail, but we just want the base skeleton of the object. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my mug. And you'll notice it's very, very sloppy. And if it's sloppy, that's perfectly fine. Give my mug a handle. Later on, we're gonna go back and fix these drawings. So you'll notice I'm breaking my drawings into shapes. Well, very, very sloppy shapes. And something like this is the start of a gesture drawing. Gestures can be messy. Trying to draw everything perfectly at first is almost impossible. Just remember what I mentioned before. Gestures, think of them as the skeleton of a drawing. And here's an example of how messy it can get. So don't worry about the mess. We're gonna clean it up later. You do not need to use a ruler. These lines are actually serving a good purpose for us because we can actually start using these messy lines as places of value. Alright, so you'll also notice that I drew pretty lightly, so I want you to draw lightly, and then as your shapes come together, you can begin to outline. So like I mentioned, this is the skeleton. I can go back in. I'm still going to keep it kind of messy, but this is where I will start defining what my objects are. So let me go fix this apple up, sprucing it up, give it some definition. Let me fix this mug. And you notice this time I'm going a little bit darker, and it's still pretty sloppy. And the purpose of our gesture is just to gather the basic information. And just ignore all those messy lines. I just want to remind you, because they will be cleaned up later. They will be cleaned up later. And notice how some of these darker lines are going in areas that I didn't draw? because this is where I'm just gonna focus on correcting all my mistakes. So once you sort of have this messy look to it, you can go back and start adding your just kind of messy value to it. So don't try to shade, don't try to really focus on shading, but just start defining the dark areas, the medium areas, and the light areas. So I'm going to keep the shading light because this is a good way of planning out where our values are going to go as well. And a little dark spot. And like all pencil drawings, the eraser is the key to forgiveness. So I'm gonna start putting in these values just in the areas that really stand out. So reason why we need to just add these values beforehand is because we're gonna add multiple layers of value on top just so we can get that value right. So notice I'm going really fast. I'm not paying too much attention to detail. It's just having that information. I've mentioned it lots of times. Having that basic information. So this is what I would consider my gesture drawing with value. Still really sloppy, but the more and more I work on it, it'll get closer to obtaining that realistic state of drawing. Now, notice how I just kind of scratched on that blending. You can use your any of the blending techniques that we talked about for this. So we can do tonal blending, hatching, cross-hatching, stippling, and scumbling. So at this point where we're looking at, this is the gesture drawing. And sorry for that little click earlier. That was just a message I got. But hey y'all, I'm adding a second part to this video, so if the frame shifted a little, that's perfectly fine. There was something that I left out that I felt like was really important, part of understanding the gestures as well. If you look at my photograph that I'm referencing, and you look at this picture, something important that's missing are the shadows. I'm completely just made an amateur mistake, so make sure you're drawing those shadows in there as well. Let me put that phone up, and I'm gonna draw those shadows. And since we're doing a still life, don't worry about all the stuff in the background. I really want you to just focus on all the stuff that's right in front of you. So just our still life objects. sorry I left that part out. So now this is kind of how a gesture drawing should look like. Just make sure you get all the details. This is a gesture drawing, and I will make another video about the contouring and the shading of your drawings. Alright, I will see y'all soon.